Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Ashley Hicks. How's it going?
Hola.
And we have Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Actually, they can't see you waving, right?
I'm going to wave anyways.
Oh, we should have the people vote. Do you guys want to see the video version of this?
No, they don't.
Joe doesn't vote. Joe doesn't vote. You guys just let us know. Let us know if that's something that you want, if you want to see our smiling faces.
Maybe we can put something over Joe's lip hair so that way it doesn't scare the people.
Well, they see me on Wednesdays, so.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. All right. Let's get some updates. I actually don't know what's going on in the lives of you two. So, Ashley, how's life? What's going on?
It's good. Mom left this week, so we've officially checked off all the grandparents coming to visit. But I went kind of crazy on the self-care just because everything's kind of opening back up. So nice. I got my first haircut since almost a year ago. My last haircut was in England. And then I got a massage, which was glorious. And then I got a facial. So I just checked off all the things because I had someone to watch Connor and it was nice. I just scheduled all the stuff. But yeah, that's pretty much it for us. Just hanging out here in Florida.
How's training in the weather? I know it's getting worse.
I mean, it's actually not too shabby. Yesterday morning was 70 degrees and the humidity was super low. So training was not too bad. I even went on I felt like a run after my workout. So I went went on a run after with Connor and yeah, it was great. So today is a little hotter, but I'm sure it'll get worse as the summer goes on. But I have invested in liquid chalk. Haven't had to use it yet, but I'll let you know.
There's a certain point where it just won't help at all. So
yeah,
I loved it. This is not a complaint. I loved how ridiculously sweaty I would get working out in Florida because it would just be absurd. Like seriously, jump in a swimming pool, get out, shirt level of wetness. That's where it was. And once you get to that point is what I'm saying. The liquid chalk just wouldn't work. I'd be like, okay, I need a little bit more. I'm like, where'd it go? It's
just paste.
Yeah, it's not doing anything. But I think it's really good for you to sweat that much, and it just
definitely
can be uncomfortable if you're getting overheated.
Yeah.
Joe, how's life?
I do agree with the sweating more makes me feel like I do more. There's been some really humid days in Baltimore, but then last week I went for a run and it wasn't humid at all. And I was just like, dang, I didn't sweat that much compared to before. Did I not do enough?
Did you work hard?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And there's other times where it's just even doing zone 2. I'm just drenched. But speaking of humidity and being humid season, is that it's some days are 2 shower days, which is annoying because that means I do laundry more, and I'm not a laundry person. That's Liz's job, right?
No comment.
But in relation to that, something that I hadn't dealt with so San Diego would get plenty humid and warm and stuff, but it's even way more humid here. And I guess I'm just doing a lot more conditioning and sweating. And I have some of the people might have had this, but I only wear the rubber wetting band, the rubber, whichever brand of it, I don't know what it was, just from Amazon, but I never took it off. And apparently that trapped a whole lot of sweat and moisture. And I took it off one day and it looked really gross and really bad. And it's actually called ring rash. Didn't know that was a thing. So I haven't worn my ring for 3 weeks because it's just been recovering. I had to get some antifungal stuff in there. But I found
That's great.
Yeah, it's, I mean, Look,
You don't hold anything back. I just love it.
I mean, I was supposed to do this update like 3 weeks ago, but I always come in with the Spitfire hot takes in my updates, so it just got pushed back. So it's pretty much healed now. But I found a new rubber ring company. I think they're called Groove or something. And like on the sides, there's actual grooves and like air that's supposed to flow in between the rubber. I haven't came in yet. It hasn't come on yet, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm sure there's other people that might have suffered from this.
You just never take your ring off?
No.
Oh.
I don't see why I would. It's just a rubber ring. I don't switch rings at all.
Yeah, I take them off even when I shower, so maybe that's why, but I've never had that issue before.
I usually push it around like, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. I think I'm also cooking less, so I'm doing less dishes. And that's when my hands would wash all the time. I don't know. I don't know the science.
So there's ring wearing?
Yeah, science of ring wearing. I also decided to do, because somebody else posted it in the group, and for some reason I just decided to jump on it, was another 10K, but it was a Zone 2 10K. I saw a lot of people after my 10K were, I inspire people. I inspired them to run a 10K.
You're inspirational.
Yep. I am very much. And other people ran theirs, and somebody decided to see if they could do it Zone 2 under an hour, and only missed it by like 2 minutes. And as I was going through mine, I was making a really good pace, and I only missed it by 3 minutes, which was cool. But then I compared it to my other 10K time when I tried, and I was like, this is bullshit. I'd just not even try anymore.
That's what I was going to say, because you posted it, and your times for I don't know if you posted each mile. They're
splits.
Super fast for being in Zone 2. Like for me, if I'm in Zone 2, I'm above a 10-minute mile pace. Like my heart rate just spikes.
I've never done multiple miles, or I guess I've never paid attention to it.
Yeah, I was just doing the regular 50 minutes, and then after the first 2 miles, my splits were actually really good. They were like 9:45 for the first 2 miles while keeping in Zone 2. I was like, that's pretty good. Let's see how I can keep this up. So I went for the full hour, and 10K was reached at 1:03 or something.
Nice. Yeah, that was a very incorrect statement. I've definitely done multiple miles. I just never looked at what the pace of those miles were. Nope, I can
run a mile.
I can run 1 mile in 50 minutes at Zone 2. All right, that's interesting. Well, I guess that leads to me. I kind of have a ring update too. So I was just going to update on the Aura ring. Well, it's funny. I'm the opposite. I don't ever wear a ring, ever. So my wedding band, I'll wear it when I don't know. I'll wear it for about an hour a day most of the time.
Do you know where it's at?
I know where it's at. It's still very important to me, but I'll take it off, leave it on my desk. And even having done that for 10 straight years, I've never lost it. But I just don't wear rings very often. But the Aura ring, I only take off when I'm training. And so I don't know how long it's been now. It's been over a month, maybe 2 months. It's really awesome. It's really awesome on the recovery metrics. I think it's the most accurate thing you can get for recovery out there. It as far as having a recovery score, definitely trumps Whoop 10 times over, in my opinion, and is very, very accurate on how I'm feeling and what number they pop up, and also consistency. And I think I talked about this last time, but I get close to the same recovery score almost every morning. And that's because almost every single day is the exact same for me. It's like training. I try to check off as many EO3 elements as possible. And so for me to randomly wake up one day with Whoop and they're like, oh yeah, you're 14% recovered. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And the Aura ring is super consistent. One day this happened last week. I basically drank no water that day. Don't ask me how. I'm always on top of my water, but I was really busy that day and wasn't paying attention to it. And I realized that night, I was like, I'm thirsty. I was like, I think I literally drank 1 glass of water today, maybe 2. And it was already 8 o'clock. I'm like, well, I'm not going to drink a bunch of water right before bed. I'm just going to roll with it. And super unrecovered. My heart rate, my resting heart rate was a lot higher. HRV was jacked up just from dehydration. So pretty interesting stuff. But I do enjoy the Aura ring. So there's my update on that. But it's not a fitness tracker. It doesn't do that. Just anyone. It's not even in the same category as what the Whoop can do or what the Garmin can do. There's just a completely different thing. All it really does is recovery and sleep. All right, quick company announcements. So this is being published on the first day of Fit Week. Welcome to Fit Week. Applause.
Woohoo!
Yeah, woo.
Yeah.
So it's the first day of Fit Week. If you don't know what Fit Week is, it's where we test a bunch of different metrics. I'm actually going to be doing the full Fit Week this week. I have not done a full Fit Week in a while. I normally kind of cherry pick my Fit Weeks, but I feel like I've been getting a little lax in that. You know, I got it at least once or twice a year. I need to test every single metric in the order that they're provided. So that'll be happening this Fit Week for me. I'm excited about it. And then also this Thursday, this week, so this is published on Monday, this Thursday, we are doing a new cycle webinar. You should be able to go to any website we own, into3fitness.com, garagegymathlete.com, concurrenttraining.com. No, I'm not going to go down the list of actual number of domains we own, but go to any of them. You'll see like a banner at the top to register for the webinar. We will also email it out, put it in the Facebook group, all of those things. So if you want to learn more about the next cycle of training, you definitely want to attend that webinar. But what's also cool, been cooking this up for a while, the new 5-tiered system for becoming legendary at Garage Gym Athlete. So we have PR shirts, we have Killing Comfort patches, these things that we do. We've formalized that process into, I'm pretty sure it's 5 stages. If it's 4, I'm pretty sure it's 5. If I screwed it up, I don't know. You'll see it on the webinar. 5-stage process that we have for being awesome, being legendary at Garage Gym Athlete. And that's probably what I'm most excited about in that webinar. And yeah, so definitely go check that out. And sample programming. Joe will have shoot out to everyone on Thursday, the same day as the webinar. That's another thing you get.
All the things.
All the things. I was going to go over creatine update, but maybe I'll save it for next week because I feel like it's already been too long. We need to get to the study. So I have an interesting story on creatine, but maybe I'll save it for later. You guys ready?
Yeah.
For the awesomeness. So the study reviewed is called Internal Loads, but not External Loads, and Fatigue are similar in young and middle-aged resistance-trained males during high-volume squatting exercise done in 2018. Okay, what they are trying to find out is, is there a big difference in performance between younger males and, should we say older males?
They said middle-aged.
Yeah, middle-aged. And that was a point made in the study, is that there's most of the research that we are pulling and that you hear us talk about, they're typically like 20s and 30s. Mm-hmm. And that's where most scientific research is done. And then there's the geriatric side of that. So 65, 70, 80, 90. There are a lot of studies in those age groups too. And so there's not as much in this mid 40s, 50s. Where did this go up to? I think it went up to
54, 55.
Yeah.
55.
So it's 20 years.
Yeah. So that's where this study is looking at. And it's like, okay, well, is there a legitimate performance difference between these two? So what did they do? The study took place over the course of 2 lab visits. The first one was just basically an assessment. And then the second one, they did a bunch of tests, 10 sets of 10 squats with 60% of 1 rep max and 2 minutes of rest between sets. Participants were instructed to move each rep as fast as possible, for the concentric and depth requirements were roughly the same as powerlifting depth requirements. After the 10th set, the same set of tests were repeated, and participants provided a session RPE score 15 minutes after the last set. So rate of perceived exertion or effort. And then they measured a bunch of stuff. What did they measure? They measured isometric force, voluntary activation, resting doublet, 20% peak power, 80% peak power, blood lactate, peak velocity, RPE, all these things between the younger dudes and the older dudes. Drum roll, please. There was not a significant difference between the older dudes and the younger dudes. It was very minimal in almost every category. All the trend lines were basically the exact same for RPE going up over time, but not that far difference. I will say the younger dudes did beat out are we going to say older? Let's say middle-aged. Because that's what it's actually called, like in the study. So middle-aged groups. So the middle-aged groups did have slightly less performance than the younger groups, but it was marginal at best. So what were some of your takeaways and interesting thoughts on the study?
I thought it was kind of cool that they how they compared it, how they went over percent changes and the depth of all the like the scientific levels and perceived strength or perceived effort and stuff like that. The only one that, and it was kind of mentioned in some of the wrap up of the study, was they didn't compare relative heart rate. It was just straight beats, which it's going to be different for your age anyway. So it's the only thing that would have been cool to see a difference. And then as well as this was just strength. So it's cool that they did the back squat for it, which, seems like it's the go-to is that everybody uses the leg press, but I'm glad they did back squat for it. But
leg extension.
Knee extensions and leg press are like the go-to. Like that's just what they have. They never updated their equipment. But it would be really cool to see. I would be interested to see what the VO2 max would be for conditioning, and if that is different as well or maintaining through age.
Yeah, because you lose. I'm going to forget the numbers now. It's every decade you lose a certain percentage of your VO2 max just by age. But I don't know. There are a lot of older, really solid endurance athletes out there. So I really think it's a matter of how much you train.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jared, on that. This actually brought to mind, so Scott has a cousin as well as an uncle that plays on the Canadian Olympic volleyball team. And his uncle, who is, I would say, in his 60s, still trains, still coaches. And when we went to go visit them in Belgium, that's where his cousin lives and plays, he is keeping up with all these younger, so to speak, 20-year-olds. He's not quite diving, on the floor or whatnot, but he's able to, keep up with them in a session. But that's, I think, the biggest takeaway for me on this was that if you continue to train throughout your years, your metrics, you might not be able to lift as much as a younger version of you. But your metrics will potentially stay the same if you are continue to train, which again is longevity, allows you to, just still move and be healthy. And the only thing I guess that, again, I brought it up when you were talking about it earlier, is just the age gap in the middle-aged men. It's a 20-year age gap. So it's kind of, I feel like a 35-year-old male and a 55-year-old male also performs pretty differently. But
they should have like a 45 in there too, like 3 groups?
So, I mean, they categorize the middle-aged men in between 35 and 55. So I think it should have been a smaller gap, in my personal opinion, because I feel like once you hit your 50s, I don't know. I mean, still, if you're training, clearly this evidence is showing that you are still recovering like you would when you were younger. But at the same time, I was kind of like, wow, that's a big age gap for the middle-aged men versus, the younger dudes. Obviously, they kept it at a very shorter gap. It was like 20 to 25, I believe. Yeah. So only a 5-year difference. But
yeah, so here's my take on it, because you said they're recovering the same. I think you mean they're performing the same, because that's the one thing that they didn't.
Right. Sorry.
They didn't really take into account. So just to give background on the participants, all participants had at least 2 years of sports experience and at least 2 years of lifting experience, and they all regularly squatted as part of their training programs. So these people are fairly experienced athletes. But that was the one point I had down, because so I'm not 55 years old, but we have interviewed 55-year-old athletes in our program, and, and even 45 and older, and people who are in Garage Gym Athlete. And to be honest, that's where most of our athletes live. Most of our athletes are not 22 years old. They're like 30s, 40s, 50s. And the one thing that we hear over and over again is that recovery piece, is that they might be able to perform the same, which, I'd love for anyone in our community to, chime in the Facebook group or something. But in the session, yeah, performance is probably the same. But what they didn't look at was recovery. I would love to see like a longer, like a 12-week study or something like this, because this was more like in the session performance. I'd love to see like what the recovery metrics were, because I've pulled other studies and looked at it for age brackets, and they normally recommend doing multiple things in a session. So like strength training and then conditioning to limit the load of volume in any one area with middle-aged athletes and things like that. I mean, that's stuff that we do in our training already, but recovery is a factor. So that was the one thing I didn't think that they took into account, but I would be interested to learn more about if there's an actual breakdown. And I tried pulling it before this podcast. Like, is there any research out there that's like going over that? And it's one of those things they don't know exactly why people don't recover as well. Like it's not as measurable, but it is stated like it is a thing, but they don't see like a mechanism behind it. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, my takeaway would be stay active forever. Just stay active and be active. And at whatever capacity or level you think that you should stay at. We have our standards that we think different people should be at, and those are broken down by age. And so like you don't always have to maintain these ridiculous standards of like a 30-year-old, but stay active because these people were active and they kept up with the younger group, right? But if we were taking two sedentary groups of like a 30-year-old versus a 52-year-old on like getting back into fitness, I bet it would be significantly different. I think the curve to getting back to like being awesome, if you will, being really fit is much harder the older you get. Like that's just true. It's harder to lose weight. It's harder to gain strength. It's harder to gain muscle mass, all these things the older you get. So you really need to get there and then stay there once you're there. If as you age, but not as hard for younger people. So I think that's it. I think you need to focus more on recovery, and I'd like to see more about that, but stay active forever is my main takeaway. Never stop training.
Yeah. Once you become sedentary, decline is pretty much exponential. So if you don't remain sedentary, then your decline is just put off farther and farther. So, 10 years from now, it'll be leaps and bounds different. And I know from doing our athlete interviews that a lot of our older athletes do really, really focus on recovery. That's one of the things that they seem to always highlight. And they're like, yeah, I'm doing the same tracks as these other people 20 years younger, but sometimes I have to alter this or do that or focus on this for recovery or skip this day because they just know how to adapt, but they're still doing the same kind of work and still staying active and doing awesome things.
Yeah, I think that's really important to listen to your body.
Yeah.
Because I'm not 55 and I want to be really fit though when I'm 55. And what I'm trying to do is not be the fittest in the world at my 30s. I'm actually, everything I'm doing now, I'm trying to like plan out for where I'm going to hit in my 40s, 50s, and 60s, which is kind of a ridiculous thing. Like a lot of people, I don't think, look at that, but I don't want to put in so much volume now that my knees suck when I'm 60. I'm really not into that. And I feel like that's where athletes in the 20s and 30s, whether that's CrossFit Games or professional powerlifting, they're burning the candle at both ends to where they're killing themselves now for this ridiculous level of performance, but they might not be the person they want to be when they're older. And I'm trying to be like, I don't want to like use it as an excuse to be like, well, I'm not going to try so hard because I want to have good knees later. Like, I don't want to be making excuses, but at the same time, I'm not trying to do like super stupid stuff that I know is just going to jack me up like I used to do, like a marathon without training, things like that.
I also looked at a separate study just to get a little more depth with it, and that actually had a ton of people, including females, and they showed both of them you really don't start to see a decline until after 40 or 50, and then it's only like a very minimal decline, but actual decline in performance and keeping up in recovery doesn't start till like 65 or so. So just because you're in your 40s doesn't mean you really have to dial it back a ton. Just, pay attention to your recovery, but the decline doesn't happen until much later than you might think. And it actually happens in technically men before first, and women decline a little bit later in strength and stuff. But yeah, it's much later than you think. So it's better to keep on the horse now. And then, yeah.
I didn't look over the entire study that you found. I wonder if they do cover any recovery stuff in that one. 'Cause that was a huge study compared to this one. This one was like, I don't know, 20 or 30 people. I don't even know. What was it? It was something like that. I can't remember now. Anyway, yeah, I'll check that one out. All right. Topic. So here's the reason behind this topic. My dad, we're talking about just kind of nutrition and staying on your diet and also how you can screw it up. But my dad, he was in need of weight loss recently. He read my book, Killing Comfort, got pretty motivated, and he lost 40 pounds in 3 weeks, something stupid. Maybe a month. It was just like, and if anybody wants to know how he did it, you can message me on Instagram and I'll let you know. Because that's about as far as I'll go. I don't always agree with his tactics. That's all I'm trying to say. Anyway, he lost a ton of weight really fast. But he was asking me, he's like, okay, well, how do I stay with it? How do I want to maintain my weight loss and all this stuff? Because the numbers are against you. If you have a lot of weight to lose and you lose it, there's only like 5% of the people who do it actually maintain that weight loss. And he kind of knows that. And he's like, well, how do I stick to it? I want like a more realistic approach. So we're talking about recipes and good food, like philosophies, not necessarily like an exact diet and things like that I'm helping him with. And he's like, okay, well, here's one thing I want to do on top of like everything you're telling me. He's like, I want Friday night through Saturday. I don't know if it's Saturday night or something, like a 24-hour period to be like my cheat time. And I was like, you can't do it. You cannot do that. And he's like, why not? And I was like, look, you could go, like, if you want to have like a beer and a burger on Friday nights and you call that your cheat meal or whatever, that's going to be fine. That's fine. But having like a 24-hour window where you see how much you can screw up is a very bad decision. And I just kind of want to talk about that philosophy because it's gotten to the point with me now, and it's taken so long. That's one thing that, building new habits and everything takes such a long period of time. Like I didn't decide all the things that I do now. Like, one day I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do all these things and it's going to be good for me. It's been like, I pick up one thing here and that thing takes me 9 months to like actually make a habit. And then I pick up another thing. It's really taken 10, 15 years to like develop really good habits. And it's like I suck at it for a long time and then I get better to where now I don't want to have this day where I like destroy myself with horrible food and alcohol and all that. So yeah, I want to talk about this with you guys, like cheat days, screwing up diets, all that stuff. Get your thoughts on it, how people could screw up and maybe mindsets that they have. Anything you guys got?
I think Ashley should go first.
So these are some of the things that I have just from having nutrition clients of my own, or just also from, my old way of thinking. One of the biggest things I hear is I work out so that way I can eat the way I want to eat. And that just doesn't work.
Hamster on the wheel.
Yeah. So, people will do a longer workout or go harder or do something extra and they're like, oh, that earned me X, Y, and Z. And you have to eat so that way your body I will say fuel, but fueled correctly for you to be able to do the workouts that you want to do. And not just that, but it's got to be longevity. So why are you eating this way, right? And the other thing that I hate is, oh, you're on a diet. You'll go to a restaurant or you'll go, so you must be on this diet right now. And I hate using that term. No, I'm not on a diet. I'm at a restaurant. I'm going to have a salad instead of the fries because, again, I may be counting macros or I maybe do something else. So you kind of have to like change your mindset. Like, this is not a diet. This should be something that you are trying to implement. And again, exactly what you said, Jared, something that is long-term. So, other thing that I find is the convenience factor too, that you eat for convenience and not for what is good for you. So I don't feel like cooking, so I'm going to go to McDonald's and swing through the drive-thru and go get what I want. you kind of have to put a little bit of thought into it. And, just a simple meal prep, like put some chicken breast in the oven and it's done in 20 minutes or 40 minutes, however long it takes, and then just get some vegetables or whatnot. It's actually not that hard to eat correctly, and do it Monday through Sunday. And then for cheat meals, I hate using that word, cheat meal. I don't know why, but I just don't like that word. I will use the word treat, I guess, over that. I don't know. It's just a thing for me. But again, it's the way my mind works. So, and exactly what you said, Jared, like you can do a treat, for a week. And that is kind of how, like, especially if you have a lot of weight to lose at the very beginning, you don't want to cut out every single thing, because then sometimes you're like, oh, you just focus on that one thing that you can't have, right? So the treat is almost like gives you maybe that sugary thing or that savory thing that you really want, so that way you can keep going through the rest of the week. But to me, it's a lot of mindset. It's a lot of, you have to change the way you think about food.
Yeah, the question I like to ask is not how, so if I really like to drink beer, like not how can I have 3 beers on Friday? Like how, I would rather ask the question, how do I become the person who doesn't want 3 beers on Friday?
Right.
Like that's a better question. Like those are the questions you need to ask yourself. How can I become the person who doesn't want dessert? And I don't know. Like I think that I'm ridiculous in that category because I just don't even really enjoy those things, but I also never have. We've talked about this before. I just feel like I don't know. I was never a sugary treat guy. So asking how do I become a different person is a much harder question to answer. But it is the one that you need to find. Like how can I become the person who doesn't want a cheat day? Like, why do you want those things so badly? Because you said you don't like the word cheat. I don't like the word cheat because we've talked about this before. Cheat is gaining an advantage over an opponent. Having alcohol, having treats, all these things that are, slowing you down cognitively, physically, that is not cheating. If you're looking at yourself as competing in life against whether that's yourself, your coworkers for a better position, other, business owners competing against other businesses. Like if you think that having a beer is a cheat, it's not. It's the opposite of that. It's like pouring sugar in your gas tank. So yeah, be different.
So you said you call it a treat. Liz and I usually call it like to indulge, our indulgence. That's what and it's really only when we travel and on other rare occasions, because we're always, 90-95% on point with our diet all the time. So that when we travel, we indulge and we think more positively about like, hey, I'm going to have this and I'm going to enjoy it, versus like, oh, I'm being bad, because that mindset shift is a huge difference. That's what we kind of do. And I think another thing that people need to be very mindful and mindful of is that, marketing is not there to help you. Marketing is there to help themselves. Everybody's trying to fight for your attention and to get you to get their product. And if they're throwing, this has this many calories, this has this big label on it, you got to be able to see through that stuff and actually just think about what that food is.
Or like the beer of athletes. I've seen that. They show like
protein beer. Yeah.
Yeah. Super active people. And like, you work hard, you deserve this beer.
Yeah. Michelob or whatever.
Yeah.
They're like, oh yeah, low cal, it's only 64 or whatever, but it's a beer. It's like, yeah, but it's a beer still. Doesn't matter.
Halo Top ice cream. Like that's I can eat a pint of Halo Top ice cream. You're still eating a pint of ice cream.
Oh man. That'll take me off on a side tangent, because I found an article about Halo Top. They whip it so much that it's just full of air. Because if you actually hold it with another pint, it weighs half as much, because there's half as much in there, because you can just eat a pint.
Pint by volume, not weight.
Yeah, exactly. So examples like that is that they're not really out for you. They're just out to make their buck, and you just need to realize that. So be wary of labels, and that's a big one.
I do want to say I'm super proud of my dad, and he's not doing anything dangerous to lose weight or taking any ridiculous supplements or anything like that. I just he's just really hardcore, maybe a little bit like me, and maybe that's where I get it from. And he will just like success at all costs. So But when you see other people do that to themselves, sometimes you're like, come on, don't be so hard on yourself. But super proud of him. He's doing great. And I'm excited about his new journey towards health. And I hope I can help him in that, on that path.
Yeah. Other people suck too. They're usually the worst when you're trying to eat healthy and doing things.
Oh yeah.
And oh my goodness, maybe it's good that people are quarantined now. You just don't have coworkers around you. So you just, let me be me.
Yeah. I used to work in an office, and the amount of crap I got for packing my lunch and like reheating, and it's just how we eat here. Why? Oh, you have sweet potatoes. You must be on a diet. No, I eat sweet potatoes normally.
Okay, Karen.
Like, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. I think, so if anyone has lost weight and they're trying to stay on track, I guess my last thing I would say, or just this idea of is think about, and this is kind of what I sent you guys ahead of time, was like, try to think of your diet. If you are thinking this cheat day situation, look at your diet on a 7-day rolling window and not an individual day window. And I really like that because I think it's true. If not that there's some magic to 7 days, you could look at over a 30-day period, but 7 days is probably more realistic for like calculating it. But if you need to have a certain amount of calories per day to lose weight, and you're hitting 1,500 or 1,800 every single day, 1,800 calories, and then you do 4,000 calories on Friday, it's going to jack up your averages for the week back to either just not losing weight or worse, gaining weight if that's what you're trying to do. And so that's another reason, just like mathematically, why a cheat day is not going to work for most people, because it's going to push you over the edge and screw you up to where it never worked. But that indulgence mindset or treat mindset that you guys are talking about, because I don't hold back in those regards. Like if we're going to a good burger place, I'm not getting a lettuce wrap burger. I'm sorry. Like Emily does it. She's like the disciplined queen when it comes to nutrition. And I wish I had as much discipline as she does when it came to nutrition. But if we're at a really awesome burger place, I'm going all in. Like, yeah, where's the gluten and French fries? But I know that that's pretty rare for me, and it's not something I like to do all the time. But it's not a weekly thing. It's very rare, and so it's fine. I don't even feel bad. I don't have guilt about it when it happens. I'm just like, yeah, I ate a burger. Who cares? And move on. But you have to just be mindful. I also don't plan it out. I'm not like, yes, 45 days until my next burger. I was like, it happens when it happens. Maybe it did happen 1 week and then the next week and then not again for 6 months. I don't know. That's just how it works out. So think about those things when you're planning out your diet and your own journey.
And if you jack things up too much, then you're just going to be full of inflammation, and then your body's not going to be rightened for another 2 or 3 days until it works out that inflammation.
Yeah.
Right.
Your Oura ring will be mad. So since we're just talking about weight gain real quick, I'm going to throw in my creatine story.
Do it.
Okay. So I recently went on creatine. I have cycled on and off of, I took creatine a lot when I was younger, just because it was like in things that I was taking. I never like took creatine on purpose, but I realized, I think I was taking 3 different supplements that all had creatine in it at one point when I was like, we're talking like 15, 16 years old. And then I went on creatine. I think, Joe, you did it with me as well. This was like 2017, 2018, something like that.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago.
My results have been the same every single time. So I am what they would call a hyper responder to creatine. Some people, like, it's not very many, but some people don't respond to creatine at all. It's basically like, just taking a placebo for some people. But for me, I respond really well to creatine. I've never taken steroids, but I would assume it's something close to that, because my lifts skyrocket, but so does my body weight. I took it for I don't even think I made it a full month. And I gained 12 pounds, and it just won't, the weight gain doesn't stop though. And this is where I always get scared on creatine, because I'm not like getting fatter. I'm just getting like bigger, I'm like getting a lot bigger. And I stopped again because I'm like, okay, where does this end? Like, I don't want to be 200 pounds like with on creatine. And so anyway, that's what happens to me when I take creatine. Gained a ton of weight. 12 pounds in whatever 3 weeks is a lot. So I'm like almost 195 pounds. And, but it's coming down because I'm coming off creatine. But I had this theory now that I wanted to throw out there because I was doing Murph recently, inspired by the crew who's doing Murph every single week. And I want to let you guys know, don't do creatine. Here's what happened to me. It made me suck at all the calisthenics, primarily push-ups. And I was getting super fatigued doing push-ups. And my first theory is what everyone's theory is right now. Oh yeah, dude, you weigh almost 15 pounds heavier and you're wearing a vest, like push-ups are going to be harder. That was my theory too. That's exactly what I was thinking in the middle of the workout. I was like, yep, you kind of suck at push-ups right now. It's because you weigh almost 15 pounds more. But then when I say suck at push-ups, I was doing partitioned. And so I was doing 5, 10, 15. So 10 push-ups every single time. And it got to the point very quickly, like only 2 or 3 rounds in, where I would do like 5 push-ups and have to like take a quick break and then do the other 5. That's very rare for me. I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like, what's going on?
That's the Joe Murph.
Yeah. And I was like, this is
the
strange.
Ashley Murph.
But then I got to round 14 and everything was unbroken and faster than. So the last 6 rounds were each faster and all reps unbroken compared to the previous 14, the last 6.
Weird.
My theory, creatine phosphate is an energy system. So I think that your body, when you're doing more muscular activity, is trying to utilize that pathway, which I had an abundance of for my body to use as energy. And then it eventually transitioned back to aerobic, and past glycolytic, because I don't even get me into that. But anyway, over to oxidative, to where my body's burning fat to do push-ups and not creatine phosphate or sugar. That's my theory, and I can't prove it. And it might be ridiculous or sound way too complicated for anyone to even care about. But don't do creatine if you're trying to get good at Murph is the moral of the story. Unless you want to gain a bunch of weight and suck at Murph.
Yeah, I mean, creatine just gets swole, man.
Yeah. How long did you take it last time?
I don't even know.
Y'all took
For a few
didn't
months.
you gain a bunch of weight?
I a good bit, yeah, like 7 to 10 pounds after a few months, maybe a full 12 weeks or so. And it took a while for me to get that off.
Yeah, I was like, I want to say it was 3 months that you both did it.
Yeah.
Weird that I remember that.
Fit week is really fun after a couple, like 60 days of creatine. Fit week is just like awesome.
Yeah. My press was consistently going up during that time. like for 3 fit weeks in a row, I PR'd my press. So that was fun, but that's about it.
I don't think we've covered creatine yet, have we?
Like in a study?
Yeah. It's like one of the most abundant sports performance studies in existence, and we haven't gone over it. It's safe. It's fine. Take it. Creatine monohydrate if you want to take it. But if you're like me, it's like every serving you take is a pound gained or quarter pound or something like that. All right, let's get into the workout. So it is Fit Week, and every Fit Week we do the EO3 5K. I feel like it hasn't been that long since we talked about this one. But who knows?
Weeks.
That was like 12 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I feel like it was sooner. I feel like we've done it. Maybe I just did it recently. I don't know. All right, who wants to brief it?
It's Ashley's favorite.
It is. It's 6 rounds of an 800-meter run, followed by 3 rounds of 5 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, and 15 air squats. So 1 round is the run, followed by the 3 rounds of calisthenics. And you repeat that 6 times, and then you rest for 3 minutes before you go to a 100-meter sprint. And then you rest 60 seconds or a minute, and then do your second 100-meter sprint. And there is a 60-minute time cap.
There it is. Tips and tricks. What do you guys have?
The last 3 minutes really tanks your time.
So if you were to do no work, your time would be 4 minutes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because of the rest.
Yeah. Okay.
You thought I was being clever. Okay, go, Joe.
I wasn't trying to be clever. I just want everyone else to understand the true nature of timing it. But
I think Ashley and I were on the same page last time we talked about this, and that's the calisthenics are as fast as humanly possible, and you're like, do your push-ups, roll over right onto your butt for your sit-ups, and then wherever you stand up from your sit-ups are your squats, and then you're gone after 3 rounds. And then the run to me is make sure you're like, I as always pace yourself to like 90% effort for each, so that you're at least your splits are pretty similar, about the same. And then if you have more, the last 2 runs push it. And yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you about that. And then my hardest part is the first run, because you start on the run, right? Is slowing it down and bringing it down to that 90%, because I just want to take off and go, which is Jared's going to be Jared's point probably. But just so that way when I get back, I can just pump out those calisthenics and then go again for the run. But yeah, I'm on the Joe side with this. I think Jared and VD are on the
they
run
were
as fast as you possibly can.
Oh, is this where we get to announce the teams?
No. Well, maybe next week. But yeah.
Okay. How do I do Meet Yourself Saturday?
Okay, so here I'll try to get more realistic than just go faster. And this is what I tell people to do in Murph as well. Okay, so do go fast. I'm going to start with that. That is the official advice. Just go faster. But if you're going a little bit slow, because you're tired or whatever, I just need you to ask yourself why you're going slow. And if that's really necessary. That's it. That's like a 2-part question. Why are you going slow? And you'd be like, I'm tired. Like, but are you really that tired? Like, just, are you? And then once you're done answering those questions, if you're like, yes, I really am that tired, I have to go this slow. You can get me, I'm like the little devil on your shoulder, or angel in my case, angel on your shoulder telling you to go faster. You've answered my 2 questions. I'm like, okay, you can go at this pace. That's fine. Or you can take a break. You can rest if needed. But if you answer either one of those questions honestly, and you're like, you know what, I'm just kind of like being a little baby right now. If you say that to yourself in answering those questions, then just go faster. So that's my best advice.
Ask myself.
What? Don't stop either. Keep going. Don't take a break, like you said. Even if you have to start walking, just walk. Just move.
Joe, are you going to start asking yourself those 2 questions?
It's going to be like a la 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 la. I'm not. No.
You should take like an Instagram video of yourself asking that question.
I ask myself those questions all the time. Am I Toby somehow now?
Yeah.
All right. It's an Office reference, right?
I guess so. I just know it as a quote of some gifts.
Yeah, I was like, Kyle is not here to join this.
You just did a perfect Office quote and you don't even know it.
I'm just that good at quotes, all right?
Yeah. All right. Well, that concludes this week's episode. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new cycle coming up. Now is the time to join Garage Gym Athlete. Go to garagegymathlete.com, click the button, start a free trial, and join us you can join for Fit Week right now, or you can join next week, which would be the official start of the new cycle. It doesn't really matter when you start Garage Gym Athlete training. It just matters that you do Garage Gym Athlete training. But I know it's exciting to start at the beginning of a new cycle. If you catch the webinar too, you get to hang out with me, the crew, and a lot of the athletes live. So we would love to have you on that webinar. So sign up for the webinar, sign up for a free trial, and become a better human through our training and methodology. That's it for this week.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.